Hello everyone and welcome to the Gunpla Network. Today we will be unboxing the high-grade GN-001 Type E with the Exia transition mode. I'm the Spicer and this unboxing is brought to you by Canadian Gundam, your one-stop shop for all your Plamo needs here in North America. If you're in the US or Canada, definitely swing by and check them out. They have regular restockings, flat rate shipping, and a private warehouse option. When you're placing your order, think back to this moment and that I said we have a promo code for 10% off, which is Gunpla Network. Now this box is a beast, and I mean that. This is a huge box. This is bigger than even some of the master grade boxes I've got, especially the Verkaz where they're a little bit smaller, especially for smaller kits, but this is just a beast. It's so big, and it would make sense. The Exia is not a really large suit, but the GN-001 is a huge thing, so it's definitely living up to its counterpart in the series, as the GN-001 is akin to like a small battleship. It is a rather large support craft that almost features as extra armament for the Ptolemaios when it's docked, which is pretty crazy to think. But this box even made me go so crazy as to try to change my setup because it wouldn't fit. It is that big, it just would not fit how I normally do things, so if you notice some weird things, it is my first time doing green screen. Please be a little lenient. But it is just, this box is such an impressive size for a high grade. I mean, this is definitely not the realm of something like the Neo Zeong, but it's close. I mean, it is big. This is not something that is going to fit in a stack of model kits, especially high grades. It's just such a strange size. Like it's I can't express how big it is. It just visually is not doing it justice here on camera. It's a massive thing, but it is a really nicely detailed box, I do have to say. The artwork on the front is nice. It does have all of the mobile suits from the end of the first season of 00. You've got the Virtue, or I guess you would have the Nautilus instead in this instance, the Kyrios, as well as the Dynames in its own GN-001, and then you have the Exia and the E-Type. So it is really nice. The artwork is pretty pleasant, even though the green screen didn't like some of the colors in it. One thing I do find kind of odd is the choice to go with the Gundam Exia transition. I mean, it's called Trans Am, but it's not the Trans Am version. We've got the Trans Am version of the high-grade Exia before. This just changes all the inner ribbons to red, like it's out of Trans Am, like it's either ending or maybe it's just starting up. It's kind of weird to go with this. I mean, I can understand it's a pretty easy thing to change. It's just a couple of stickers and one rubbery soft part of plastic we'll talk about later. But I mean, just the regular Exia I think would have been appealing enough. But I guess maybe for completionists out there, I don't know. This isn't just, I can't even really remember it donning this visual for more than maybe a few seconds in the series, so a weird pick here, Bandai, but whatever. I mean, it adds to the wall of Exias that somebody can have, so that's pretty cool. One thing I am looking forward to with this kit, though, is with it being so big, I can't imagine the actual GN-001 itself is going to have a lot of stickers. It's big, there's a ton of plastic in the box. I can't imagine where stickers would even go. It's pretty monotone. There's not a whole lot of color. Maybe some of the white or gray pieces here and there. There's some wings, and usually those don't get modeled in plastic, so we'll see about that. There's a couple of other spots that might be, but generally speaking, as much plastic as in this box, I really cannot think of how stickers are going to really be applied to this. We'll see the sticker sheet in a little bit, and as you'd expect, especially with a Exia like this, it's going to have quite a few stickers, but overall it does look like the Exia is going to be the culprit for the sticker sheet more so than the GN-001 is going to be. In terms of the side of the box, you do get a completed version. Of course, it's painted up, so take that as you will. And some lore about the GN-001, a little backstory, a little history, and of course we get the nice Celestial Being logo there. We also get some more of that box art on the side. And of course, over on the other side, we have the completed kit and all of its gimmicks, and for something so big, it does have quite a few. We do see its two different modes. We see its flight mode and then its mobile armor mode with the Exia plugged into it, and then we get the Exia as well. since it is technically part of the model kit, we do get some images of that. And of course, onto the plastic itself, starting us off with the A plate, which is going to be for the Exia. Nothing special here. All the blue for the armor, the yellow for the yellow bits, the red for the red bits, and some clear pieces that got washed out in the green screen, but they are there, I do assure you. And of course, moving on to the B plate, making up the rest of the Exia, is the external armor, which is going to be in that white. It's pretty much just going to be the arms, the legs, and of course a couple of weapons, and yes, you're going to have to paint the beam saber. You also have the C plate, which is a gray inner frame portion with some hands, some shield bits, the gun, and the GN sword. You'll also have the D plate, which is a weird red rubber. This is meant to take the place of the ribbons on the shoulders. Starting us off with the GN arms is the F plate, which is actually a pretty sizable plate, and a lot of these parts are really big. But it's interesting to see the color on this. It's kind of this purpley blue gray type color. It's very double O, gives me those vibes, but it is just a unique color. And then onto the G plate, which we have two identical plates of, but this is going to be entirely in white and looks to be accent pieces. We'll also have two of the H plate, which is going to be another one of those inner frame plates with all the gray and everything in it. It is going to be making up some of the cannons and things like that. Then we'll have two of the I plates, which are going to go back to that colored, the gray-blue color. Then we're also going to have two of the J plates. Same deal, it's going back to that original color that we saw on the F plate. And then we'll also have the K plate, which is going to be molded in white, which looks mostly like more accent pieces. And it would kind of match everything else we've seen so far. It makes a lot of sense. We have one big nose cone though. We'll also have two of the L plate, which is going to be made up of the gray, which is going to be mostly some inner detailings, it looks like, some of the weapons potentially. We'll also have the M plate here, which is actually going to be molded in ABS, so it's going to be a different type of plastic, which is going to be in a gray, so mostly inner frames, things like that. We'll also have the same ABS plastic used over on the N plate, which is going to look like have some of the jointed pieces, so once again harder plastic to make those movements possible. And, you know, it's kind of interesting to see these different types of plastics here. The last real plate we'll take a look at is going to be the O plate, which is the stand. It is a pretty large stand, I mean, kind of reminiscent almost of some of the master grade size stands, just because this is so big, and it looks like it's going to have enough plastic, it's going to be super heavy. We'll also have some PC pieces. We'll have a smaller sheet, most likely probably for like the Exia, and then we'll also have a larger sheet, which will probably make up the larger portions of the GN arms. We'll also have a sheet of stickers, which is going to feature some white, some gray, and some of the metallic red, which is going to be used for the quote-unquote Trans Am mode this Exia is supposed to be in. And then we'll also have the booklet, which is pretty big and a lot closer binding-wise to like a master grade than it is a high grade. Now, I would say the one other thing that's going to be in this box is going to be a set of screws, and I'm not really sure if it's for the stand or if it's going to be for the kit. I'm thinking the stand, but I'm not really sure. We'll find out, I suppose, but I'm really excited to get in and build this kit. Just looking at it, looking at the pieces, looking at all the joints and everything, I'm interested to see how the actual mobile armor itself moves, because it does have kind of a somewhat of a transformation gimmick, so we know portions of it move, and I just know from like looking at it that some of the other gimmicks and stuff are going to move. There's like some claws, there's some arm movement, I think there's some cannons and stuff that are supposed to move around, so I'm interested to see not only how that goes together, but how it actually works in practicality. With this being so big, I can't imagine it's going to have a lot of articulation, but hopefully it's a good enough range that it can get some pretty cool dynamic imposing poses instead of just being kind of a statue. I wouldn't mind it as a statue because it is really cool looking in general, but if you could get some cool action shots, I think it would really push this over the top. It's so cool looking, it's gonna be eye-catching just because of how big it is, even if you have master grades and things on your shelf. So I'm really interested to see what this is gonna look like on a shelf of like high grades and real grades and stuff. And this actually kind of makes me think, now that I'm thinking about it, I wonder how this is going to size up to like an EX model. I mean, I know it's different, of course, but it'll be interesting to see kind of how that is put in scale, or not in scale, but you know, how they look next to each other. So I've got some pretty high hopes for this. I don't think it's going to be a disappointment by any means. There's just so much interesting stuff going on with a kit like this that you can't really be let down. You know, you don't really have a lot of expectations that are super high because it's just a big chunk of plastic, but there's just so many cool little gimmicks. I think that's really going to make this one of the big pieces on my shelf. But I want to let you guys take the floor for a second, and down in the comments below, tell me what you're most excited about for this build. Is it the gimmicks? Is it how the Exia plugs in? Is it just the sheer scale and size of this beast? Let me know in the comments. And of course, if you've liked my ramblings, leave a like down below as well. I will say I'm most excited to just see how imposing, just how large this is in comparison to everything else. I don't think I'm going to be able to get over that. I think that is going to take up a large portion of the review, just me freaking out about how big it is, because it is, if it's anything like the box, it's going to be almost like taking up its own section of shelf. It's just so massive, but we'll see. I'm really excited to crack it open. Stay tuned for the review. As always, I've been the Spicer. This has been the Gunpla Network. And of course, before I go, I have to say, I think I'm excitement embodied. Of course, keep on building.